Up until now, I have always prepared my tri-tip using a dry brine, but I got curious. What would happen if I tried cooking it with a wet brine instead? Can it really get any better than it already is? Will it make the meat even juicier and tender? Which brine result in better taste and crust? Let's find out together.
Alright, I will make one tri-tip with dry brine and one with wet brine. Start by choosing a high-quality tri-tip with good marbling, as the intramuscular fat will contribute to the flavor and tenderness of the meat. Trim off any excess fat, especially the fat cap, if your tri-tip have it, of course. The goal is to expose the meat so that the brine can penetrate the surface and flavor the meat. Keep in mind that the intramuscular fat, not the fat cap, provides the flavor and juiciness you are looking for. Dry brining enhances flavor, tenderness and juiciness of the meat by uniformly seasoning and tenderizing it. Dry brining also helps redistribute and retain moisture throughout the meat, resulting in a juicier final product with better browning and crust formation. For dry brine, evenly coat the entire surface of the tri-tip with kosher salt. Make sure to rub the salt into the meat, ensuring that all sides are well covered. For a dry brine, you typically need about half a teaspoon of kosher salt per pound of meat. This is general guideline and you can adjust the amount based on your personal taste preferences. Keep in mind that a coarse salt like kosher salt is preferred for dry brining, as it adheres better to the meat and dissolves more slowly, providing a more even seasoning. Now, what about wet brining? The primary purpose of wet brining is to improve the meat's moisture retention, resulting in a juicier end product. The salt in the brine breaks down proteins in the meat, allowing it to absorb more water, which is then retained during cooking. Wet brining also imparts flavor from the seasonings used in the brine, adding depth and complexity to the meat's taste. Let's make a brining solution. You will need 4 cups water, 3 tablespoons kosher salt, 2 tablespoons brown sugar, 1/4 cup soy sauce, 1/8 cup Worcestershire sauce, 2 tablespoons apple cider vinegar, 4 cloves garlic, 1.5 tablespoon freshly ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon dried rosemary, 1 teaspoon dried thyme, 1 teaspoon red pepper flakes. Optional for added heat. In a large saucepan, combine the water, kosher salt and brown sugar. Heat over medium heat, stirring occasionally until the salt and sugar have dissolved. Remove from heat and let it cool to room temperature. Once cooled, add the soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, apple cider vinegar, minced garlic, freshly ground black pepper, dried rosemary, dried thyme, and red pepper flakes if using to the saucepan. Stir well to combine all ingredients. Place the tri-tip in a large zip-top bag or a non-reactive container. Pour the cooled brine mixture over the meat, ensuring it's fully submerged. Seal the bag or cover the container. Refrigerate the tri-tip in the wet brine for at least 8 hours or overnight for best results. The longer the meat soaks in the brine, the more flavorful and tender it will become. However, avoid brining for more than 24 hours, as this may lead to overly salty meat. What's the difference between two methods? Wet brining adds moisture and flavor with a brine mixture, while dry brining enhances natural flavor, tenderness and crust. Let's test it out today. It's time to check on our tri-tips to see how their transformation has gone. For video purposes, I brined the tri-tips in advance, but let's imagine that a night has passed. I didn't film it because I brined them yesterday at 11 PM and was quite tired. Nevertheless, the tri-tips were brined for about 10 hours. First up, we have the tri-tip that underwent the dry brine process. You can't help but admire the rich, beautiful color it has acquired. Just look at how it looks in comparison to a fresh piece. As expected, the surface became very dry. The moisture came out first, then went back in with salt. Everything else that was on the surface dried up because the refrigerator has dry air. Dry brining creates a dry surface on the beef, ideal for forming a flavorful crust. Now let's move on to the next piece. Remove the tri-tip from the brine and rinse it under cold water to remove any excess salt. Pat the meat dry with paper towels. You will notice a significant difference in color. However, the trade-off is an absolutely amazing aroma. Discoloration always happens with wet brine. However, it's important to note that this discoloration does not necessarily indicate a problem with the meat or its quality. It's a normal result of the wet brining process, and the meat should still cook up tender, juicy and flavorful. And here is the third piece, will be used as a controlled sample. Okay, now let's apply the spices. To ensure fairness in the experiment, I will only use salt, black pepper and garlic. Before applying the wrap, make sure to pat the tri-tip dry with a paper towel. This will help the spices stick better to the meat and create a more flavorful crust when cooked. For dry brined and wet brined tri-tips, I will use crushed black pepper and garlic for seasoning. For the control sample, I will also use salt. Be careful not to use too much wrap if you want the smoke flavor to penetrate the meat. Let's start the grill now. I have added approximately 12 charcoal briquettes, sufficient for the low and slow stage. Make sure to clean the grate. It's crucial to install a thermometer for monitoring the grill's internal temperature because we cannot rely solely on the built-in one. It is located above the charcoal, meaning if we want a grill temperature of 225 F, the built-in thermometer will read about 20-30 degrees higher. As you can see, the built-in thermometer reads 250 degrees, while our additional thermometer reads 216 degrees. A significant difference of 34 degrees. That's why you definitely need an additional thermometer. I also place thermometers in each dry tip to monitor the temperature precisely and timely remove the meat from the grill. I have set the target temperature to 120 degrees. I'll smoke at an approximate temperature of 225. As soon as you reach this temperature, close the lower intake vent to the low and slow setting. Now place the tri-tips, leaving some space between them for the smoke to circulate freely. And let's add a piece of cherry wood for smoking. Cherry wood is ideal for smoking beef due to its mild, fruity flavor and its slow, steady burning characteristics. The low and slow stage will take around 45 to 60 minutes. Okay, while we wait for the tri-tips to smoke and reach the desired temperature, I won't sit idle and will prepare chimichurri sauce. To make this sauce you will need 1 cup fresh parsley, 1/4 cup fresh oregano, 4 garlic cloves, 1/4 cup red wine vinegar, 1/4 cup olive oil, half teaspoon salt, half teaspoon black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon red pepper flakes. In a medium-sized mixing bowl, combine the finely chopped parsley, oregano, I'm using cilantro as I couldn't find fresh oregano in any shop, and minced garlic. Add the red wine vinegar, olive oil, salt, black pepper and red pepper flakes, if using, to the bowl and whisk until thoroughly combined. Taste the sauce and adjust the seasoning to your liking. Let the sauce sit at room temp for at least 30 minutes to allow the flavors to melt together. Smoked tri-tip with chimichurri is a killer combo. As I know, it's a popular dish in many parts of the United States, especially in California where tri-tip is a local favorite. The rich, bold flavor of the smoked tri-tip goes perfectly with the zesty and herbaceous chimichurri sauce. Once the meat has reached the desired temperature, take it off the grill and remove the thermometers. Add the charcoal and put the rack back on the grill. About 5-7 minutes before the tri-tips reach the desired temperature, I started preparing the charcoal. For smoking I used briquettes, but for searing I prefer to use regular non-pressed charcoal as it heats up faster and creates a stronger heat. Our goal now is to create a beautiful crust. To achieve this I am using butter. Since tri-tip is not a fatty meat, applying butter will help form a more flavorful crust. Here is a grilling tip. To stop your meat from sticking, turn the grill rack every 30-40 seconds. This helps cook everything evenly. Many people like seeing grill marks on steaks, those burnt lines, but I think they're more about looks than taste. For me, the real skill is getting a nice even brown color all over your steak. This adds more flavor. What do you think about grill marks? Does it ruin the taste? Let me know in the comments. Flip the meat every 20-30 seconds for a better crust formation, but that's a topic for another video. In my opinion, we are ready. Let the tri-tips rest for 10 minutes, allowing the juices to redistribute throughout the meat to prevent them from spilling out when cut. This will result in juicier and more tender meat. Additionally, the carryover heat will increase the internal temperature by several degrees, resulting in a medium rare to medium doneness, around 125 F. And look at that beautiful mahogany color and the crust. While the tri-tips rest, let's grill some vegetables on the same charcoal. Today I want to cook asparagus and peppers. Begin by trimming any tough or woody ends from asparagus. Cut the bell peppers into chunks, removing the seeds and stem. Drizzle the asparagus and peppers with olive oil and sprinkle with salt and pepper. You can also add other seasonings like garlic powder or Italian seasoning if desired. Cook the veggies on the grill with the lid closed for about 5-7 minutes until they start to soften. Then move them to the direct heat and turn them occasionally until they become charred and tender. The asparagus should be slightly browned and the bell peppers should be soft with charred skin. Then let peppers cool for a few minutes first and then remove the skin. The skin will come off easily once it's charred. Simply use a knife to scrape it off.
Alright, it's time to try these bad boys. This one is dry brined. Just check this beautiful mahogany color, especially on the edges of dry brined tri-tip. This is absolutely amazing. This one is wet brined and this no brine. Let's cut into them and see what they look on the inside. The pinkiest one is the one which we dry brined. Okay, let's cut a slice from each and try to determine which one is more tender and juicy. Dry brine, wet brine, no brine. Okay, in my opinion, they are pretty same, but looks like no brine is not so tender as dry brine and wet brine options. Now let's give them a taste. First, the plain one without any brine. It is tasty as expected. Next, the dry brine one. This is my favorite. This is super tender, it has a rich, beefy flavor. And finally, the wet brine. Okay, initially in my script I wrote that wet brine is like fantastic. This is unexpectedly good, you can taste the brine, which means it penetrated well into the meat overnight. This is not what I expected. Yes, definitely you can feel the taste of wet brine, all the spices. To be honest, I will still keep using dry brine for tri-tip. Time for chimichurri sauce and veggies. Let's simply add them to the meat and eat it all. Man, this tri-tip is a top notch. Let me know in the comments below if you tried this recipe and were able to achieve the same result or even better result. The only problem with these tri-tips is that they don't have enough of beautiful smoky flavor. However, if you enjoy smoked meat, check out this video where I make beautifully smoked baby back ribs on Weber Kettle using an upgraded 3-to-1 method. Peace.